business trip.
Did the people move around?
It does tingle a little bit. All right, it is top 3 time for May the 23rd of 2023. If you've been with us before, thanks for coming back. If you haven't been with us before, welcome. This is our kind of rankings part of the show where we are going to draw a random category out of this bag of chips. And Peter and I are going to have 20 seconds to figure out what are our top 3 or bottom 3 of each one. Which, when we go down to September, we need to brainstorm like 50 of these so we have them, because we're starting to run out of topics. So we are going to do chip number 1 or dash, but I think it's 1. So let's go over to the spreadsheet.
Your favorite Incredible.
Your favorite Incredible.
Yeah, it says dash.
Favorite uses of minivans.
What? Get out of here.
Yeah.
That's a dumb one.
It is.
How is that number 1?
You got 40 seconds.
Planning your first trip and getting overwhelmed by all the details? Planning your next trip and just want some new suggestions on things you haven't tried? Contact me at Princess and the Mouse Travel, and I'd love to work with you planning your next trip to the most magical place on earth.
You can contact Princesses and the Mouse Disney Travel on Facebook at PATM Disney Travel. Peter is not happy about this week's top 3.
There's only 3 uses. I mean, we can get more. Yeah, we can get more specific. It's fine. I got 4 things listed, so it's fine.
All right, you go ahead and you go with your number 3.
So something that I have used a minivan for, and really, can I just pause for a second? We're saying the minivans because a minivan is a service provided through Lyft where they pick you up in, they call them minivans, but they're normally Suburbans or Tahoes, and they're just wrapped in red with white dots. And the difference here is it's a Lyft that costs a premium. I'd say about a 30 to 40% premium over what the normal Lyft would cost. But the advantage is they are driven by Disney cast members who know a ton of trivia and information, have knowledge and inside workings of the parks. So just for those of you that don't understand what the minivan service is, you can book it through Lyft, similar to a rideshare. And so I'm going to kind of talk about some of my things are going to be rideshare in general, but yes, the minivan specifically is kind of like a step above and beyond.
Yeah, so you know, if you're familiar with the Lyft app, these come in like a Lyft Black, that kind of price range. And what's nice about them with the kid side of it is they all come equipped with booster and car seats in each one. So it does make them very, very kid-friendly. You don't even have to ask. They all come with them. So if you do get a minivan, you get the booster and car seats with that as well. So Peter, why don't you go ahead and start with your number 3, bud?
So my third favorite thing, and I am going to try and put these in order, but we'll see if Matt steals them. So my third favorite thing to do with the minivan or rideshare service is use it when I'm heading to the parks early in the morning. Especially when you're staying at one of those value resorts or you don't get a good location, even at something like a Caribbean Beach or a Port Orleans Riverside. We were at Port Orleans Riverside, and our bus depot was the 3rd one of Alligator Bayou. And so we watched on our Magic Kingdom morning, we watched 3 full buses go past before we got a bus that we may or may not have asserted ourselves in front of people who had been there before us to make sure that we got on, because we did not have stroller encumbrances and such. And even then, we were the last 4 people behind the yellow line. My daughter had to ride on the floor. So these rideshare minivans or other rideshare services are fantastic for early morning if you're in a not opportune bus depot location at the value or at the intermediate resorts, or if you're at those value resorts. Because, I mean, if you're over in the 90s area of Pop Century and you're going to Magic Kingdom, I mean, that's almost a 10, depends on the pace you go, but it's like a 10-minute walk to the bus depot. Then if you're going to Magic Kingdom and you're there anywhere under an hour before the park opens, guarantee there's a 4-bus line that you're going to stand in for. Now, they're going to start sending the accordions and everything else, but you're still going to be standing there for at least 20 minutes waiting for it. You could come out of your room, have your minivan pick you up at the 90s building. They'll drive right up to the nearest spot of your building, hop in. And what's great about the minivan service over the Uber or other Lyft services is if you're going to Magic Kingdom, the minivan will drop you off where the bus depot is, whereas the other rideshare bookings are going to drop you off at the ticket transportation center, which can be kind of a pain in the butt. So there is an advantage to paying the premium, especially for Magic Kingdom. That was a very long and drawn out way of saying, get to the parks early in the morning and avoid the big bus lines by getting a minivan.
All right. Yeah, and I was going to bring up that difference between the drop-off at the TTC versus the drop-off at the gate. And that is very much the same at all of the parks. Minivans have one drop-off point that is much closer to the park entrance than all the other rideshare services.
Hollywood Studios straight up drops you at security.
Yeah. It
Hollywood
does.
Studios minivan drop-off is the turn right by the left side of security. You're closer than the buses.
Yeah. So my number 3 is going to be kind of that same ilk, but it's going to be getting to and from Disney Springs from the parks. Because right now you cannot take a bus from any of the parks to Disney Springs, and you've never been able to take a bus from Disney Springs to the parks. They just didn't want people parking at Disney Springs and then going to the parks from there. But you can take a minivan to those areas and back and forth between those areas. So it's a great way to where if you want to just leave the park midday, go catch a lunch at Disney Springs and then come back, easy way to get to Disney Springs and back to your park without having to go through another resort hotel between the two of them. So my number 3 is going to get between the parks and Disney Springs. So Peter, let's go ahead and get into our number 2. And no, we're not going to get into our number 2 because my Stream Deck decided it wanted to be a volume mixer again and not a Stream Deck. So I've got to let it go to its timeout. So I have to go a minute. So, and then it will time out and then it will go again. I don't know why it does it. It frustrates me. There we go.
So live.
There we go. Yeah, we're live, but business trip. Wow. No, not quite. So before you get going, let's tell people where they can find you. I'm doing it one early.
Oh yeah. Normally it comes before number 1. Sometimes you mix it in before number 2. So find me over on Facebook. Just type in Princess and the Mouse Travel, and you'll find me right there. You can also go to our website. Our Wix site is scrolling through the podcast, and heading there allows you to fill out a vacation form, gives me some of the kind of initial questions. Oh, it's apparently up right now. I can't see the stream, but Matt's clearly saying it's up right now. So if you head over there, it'll basically pre-ask you all the questions that I'm going to ask you in the first few messages back and forth if you do Facebook message me. So I'll get back with you as quick as I am able. So my number 2, I am going to go with this one because you used it either last week or a couple weeks ago. But this one's pretty much a no-brainer. Using the minivan or other service to get over to the golf courses if you're going to golf while you're at Disney makes a ton of sense. I mean, first of all, if you bring your clubs, how are you going to get them to the golf course? Unless you're at Polynesian and golfing at Magnolia or Palm, Yeah, or at Saratoga and golfing over at the Lake Buena Vista. Like,
hey! I've brought my golf clubs on the monorail before.
Right, that's what I was going to say. It's like, so your other option is I'm going to ride with my golf clubs on a mode of transportation or multiple modes of transportation to get within striking distance of those golf courses.
I got no weird looks at all on the monorail going to the golf course.
I'll bet you, yeah. I'm sure it's commonplace. Yep, that makes sense. It's over by Polynesian. If you know, you know. So obviously, taking a ride share like a minivan is a great idea. Getting yourself to the golf course, it's going to allow you, again, kind of that ease, that convenience of walk out of my room, get in the minivan, head over to the golf course, get dropped off. You also kind of like almost get dropped off in style because you rolled up in the minivan to golf at the Disney Disney course. So we'll keep that one short and simple, very easy. If you bring your golf clubs, take a Lyft or Uber. Obviously, if you're renting, take it or leave it. Your call.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great one. And again, they are all larger vehicles. They're either Traverses or Tahoes or Suburbans. And just great vehicles to get around to do the golfing and that kind of stuff. So no, fantastic idea. My number 2, I love using them going resort to resort. We do so much dining in other resorts that it makes a ton of sense for us to do that. Now one thing that's really cool about the minivans is they all have a USB. And that little USB stick has the soundtrack for every resort hotel that the bus would. So if you get on a bus that's going to Pop Century has its own soundtrack that you listen to from wherever you're going to Pop Century, or from Pop Century to wherever you're going. The minivans have the same thing. So when they pull up, they'll switch it over to that soundtrack and you'll listen to that music going to that resort hotel. So it's cool going to, like Topolino's at Riviera, or going over to the boardwalk, getting those different resort soundtracks that you wouldn't normally get. We don't stay at a lot of deluxe resorts, so we get to hear some of that music that they would hear on the buses as well. Another thing that Peter brought up was the knowledge factor of the minivan drivers. Even if you don't know where you're going when you get to that resort, you can ask your minivan driver and they probably know once you get into the lobby, or even if you don't go into the lobby, where are you going to get to this meal or get to wherever you're going at that resort. So no, it's a great way to use the minivans, just getting from your resort to another resort for dining and that kind of stuff. So that is my number 2. So Peter, let's go ahead and get to your number 1. And before we get to your number 1, if you guys have any ideas for the top 3 show, like I said, we are starting to run a little dry. I'm sure we can sit down and come up with about 30 and 15 minutes tonight. But send us your ideas. You can either do it in the Facebook chat, you can do it in the YouTube chat, you can do it in the comments in YouTube, or you can go over to the website, and that is patmdisneytravel.wixsite.com/planning, and go into the upper right hand corner and you can send us your idea for a top 3 segment today. So go ahead and do that. So Peter, what is your number 1 use of the minivan service?
We should do a top 3 show where we come up with top 3 show ideas.
We'd get 6 of them.
Right. Done. Got 6 more weeks to footage.
Gets us through the summer.
All right. So my number 1 is similar to Matt's number 2, but I'm going to be more specific with it. Matt talked about some of the great things to do at the resorts, and some of the great things you can do at some of the resorts are visit the nightlife scenes, whether it be clubs like the Dueling Piano Bar at the boardwalk, or the Abracadabra along the boardwalk, or even within a resort. For example, like Trader Sam's, Grog Grotto over at Polynesian. And there are many other just really, really wonderful late night establishments. Well, if you find yourself wanting to stay there till midnight or 1 a.m. when they close, because you're on an adult-only trip or your kids are older, so you trust them back at the resort by yourself, well, you and whoever you're there with want to go out for some drinks, you're going to have a hard time if you stay at Trader Sam's until they close and your stay.
Of course, you're freezing now. Well, Peter's trying to say.
Am I still good?
You're good now. You're good now. You were frozen for a little while.
Oh.
You froze. You know, when you were talking about if you wanted to stay till close at Trader Sam's, it's really hard to get a bus anywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're being completely honest, like if you were to walk up to the Polynesian guest services and say, I stay here, how do I get there? Like, chances are they'd probably make it happen. You know, because like we've had situations where we've had dining reservations and they were supposed to be. Now they won't if you're outside of normal transportation hours because that's on you. We've had situations where they like straight up call us a private bus, but that's because a transportation we should have been able to take wasn't working, and this was on Disney, not on me. So, you know, if you want to do that, then these minivans are a great idea. Again, especially just due to now, I have now ridden in dozens of Orlando area Uber and Lyft vehicles, and I've never ever felt this way. So I am not knocking it in any way, shape, or form. But especially if you're traveling with maybe a younger group of girls late at night, knowing that you're going to step in and out of a minivan would be worth the extra money over just booking a regular Uber or Lyft. Again, I have never had anything but positive, amazing experiences with the people that drive the ride shares, but I'm also a relatively decent sized male, so I don't necessarily have that same concern. So having the minivan and all that professionalism that Matt and I have been talking about is definitely a good idea for those late night bar scenes if you want to go and enjoy your time but still need to get back to wherever you're staying.
Yeah, now this wasn't a minivan experience. It wasn't even an Uber or Lyft experience. But if there's some guy just hanging out in front of the resort with a broken down, just like beater van and says, hey, I could take your group somewhere, give me $20, it's probably not the best idea, and you probably want to have a safe word before you get into it. So.
Well, and you're going to be likely, your faculties might be diminished, so you might make bad decisions. That actually happened to us once. We were leaving Hollywood Studios and needed to get back to the airport, and we kept trying to order an Uber, but we were like, Hollywood Studios was running surge prices, and so we kept just refreshing until we could book without a surge, and then we'd book without a surge, and then it would get canceled. So then we would sit there, and it just kept happening and happening, and there was an Uber driver whose ride didn't show up, and he was like, hey, I can go to the airport. I know I'm going to get somebody and just come right back here. So I'll take you to the airport for $40. You know, we won't put it in through the app. I'm going to make more money. You're going to get there for slightly less money. Like, it's a win-win for both of us. And boy, we sat on that app for like 15 more minutes before we finally agreed to it. But you better believe I had Google Maps up the whole time. I'm like, okay, he is on the correct route. Like, I ain't losing my kidney and liver today, buddy.
we had it coming back from Discovery Cove, and he actually, the vehicle was in such bad shape that he goes, I don't think my truck's or my van's gonna make it to your resort, and dropped us off in a strip mall off of International Drive. And we had to get an Uber from there. So, yes, make wise decisions while you're down there. Make wise decisions. Okay, my number one. It is not back right now, but my number one is using minivan service to get to and from Disney Cruise Lines. It is a fantastic way to get from the land portion of your land and sea or back to the land portion of your land and sea when you're doing a cruise. They do have a set rate to do it, but using those bigger vehicles, again, you get dropped off right at the cruise terminal. You don't have to go into any of the rideshare areas. And again, you get that service, that Disney service to and from the cruise lines. From the resorts, it's about an hour and 10 minutes to the cruise port there in Port Canaveral. And they don't do it to the cruise port in Miami, of course. That would make a lot of sense because it's like 3.5 hours or something.
Yeah.
But they are. Do you think they're going to do it out of Fort Lauderdale when they start going off that side? That's an interesting one.
Yeah, that'd be close. Like, that's under 2 hours.
Yeah, I think that might be something
Maybe.
that they do. I mean, I bet you it'd be around $100 or maybe a little bit north of $100. But I mean, that's an interesting thought there, that they might go both ways once they bring that back. And the same way with the airport. They aren't doing the airport right now, but they used to be able to get a minivan to and from the airport as well. I would imagine that that's coming back at some point as well. They've got to make money somehow, and as long as the minivans are making money, they're going to utilize them as much as they can. So yeah. So my number one is utilizing the minivan for land and sea vacations. Peter, another great top three. For those of you that are waiting to listen to these on Spotify is still kind of jacking us around a little bit when it comes to the ad revenue. So once we get that figured out, we'll start reposting these up on Spotify. But until then, definitely go over to YouTube. You can RSS feed it from there, and you can listen to it on the website as well. So thank you guys all very much for watching tonight. Another top three episode with Peter with Princesses and the Mouse Disney Travel. You guys all have a good night, and we will talk to you later. Bye now. Hey, thanks for checking us out today. Don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons to help out the channel. Also, if you're looking for some more Disney content, check this out. I think you're going to like it.